I do not understand the appeal with A Christmas Story. This was released in 1983. It's directed by Bob Clark, with a screenplay by Jean Shepherd, Leigh Brown, and Bob Clark, based on the novel In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, written by Jean Shepherd. I've obviously never read the novel. If you have any thoughts on how it compares, please feel free to let me know. I will in a moment explain why I thought it was pretty terrible, but I will also praise some things, credit where it's due. This is about a little boy called Ralphie, played by Peter Billingsley. Really good performance, no problems there. And we also have the voice of Jean Shepherd as Ralphie as an adult. And that's one of the things I really hated about this. Not the actual vocal performance, the voice acting was fine, but I hated that we constantly had this voiceover of Ralphie as an adult passing commentary on things that were happening. Basically, he's telling us the story of this particular Christmas when he was a boy, and it adds nothing. We could have followed the story just as well without that narration, and often he's talking over the dialogue in the scenes, and that's so irritating. It felt like I was watching a DVD commentary, which is fine if that's what it was. If it was a director providing commentary or something, fair enough. But that's what it felt like. And you don't want that when you're watching a film. So the voice acting was fine, but the editing of the voice into the narrative was kind of badly done in a way that was really off-putting. And I also felt like it added no value. So we really didn't need that. And I found that to be so irritating. The story itself is also very slow and very boring. Basically, it's in the run-up to Christmas, and Ralphie wants this BB gun for Christmas, and it's basically about him trying to convince people to buy him this. The big question is, will he get it? I'm not going to say. There are, of course, other things along the way to try and keep the action going. For me, the most interesting bit was when a kid got his tongue stuck to a pole, and that sounds boring, and it kind of was. I don't understand the appeal with this. There are so many scenes of children just running in the snow. How repetitive. And I don't really think Ralphie is a particularly likable protagonist. I didn't dislike him, but I didn't connect with him emotionally, so I wasn't really caring about his journey or his story. I found him to be, I guess, boring more than unlikable. So boring narrative. Very slow, a protagonist who, although not unlikable, is not necessarily very likable either, and getting narration over the top of it, and there's not really a lot to offer. Credit where it's due, it is festive. There is a really nice amount of Christmas in this. And I say that as somebody who gets very annoyed by films that market themselves as Christmas films, and there's maybe one bauble, and that's it. This one actually has a really nice amount of festivities in it, so that's something that I found did work well. The setting is very nice as well. It's set in the 40s. It feels a lot more pleasant than, say, a lot more contemporary efforts. But we still have, even if it's in the 40s, we still have this very commercial consumerism aspect driven by the personality of Ralphie. We have a couple more heartwarming family moments, I guess, but not enough for me to find it to be an emotional film, and it doesn't take a lot for me to have an emotional experience with the film, so I feel like that is kind of saying something. There are a lot of exceptionally positive 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 reviews for this film online, and I thought I'd read a couple of the reviews to kind of find out why people love this, because I don't get it. I feel like we have a really boring narrative, boring characters, terrible narration. Again, not the voice acting, but the actual purpose of the narration and the way it's edited into the sound is just horrendous. We do have some festivities. So I thought, okay, I'll check out a couple of reviews. I don't usually read reviews until I've done my discussion, but it does seem like most of the reviews that I read that are positive tend to say, I loved this as a child, it's so nostalgic. And yes, absolutely, there are films that I watched as a child that I will absolutely rate more highly now because of the positive fuzzy feelings that they give me. So I can see people giving this a higher rating because of that. I don't think I ever saw this as a child, but I didn't really find that many positive, exceptionally positive reviews from people watching it for the first time now as an adult. I'm sure there will be some. There will absolutely be some out there. But it does seem like it's a very nostalgic film for a lot of people. I'd love to know what you think of this, particularly if you're watching it for the first time now as an adult, or if you were an adult when you watched this. It's also worth pointing out that I have exceptionally high expectations for Christmas films because I have seen, I think, about 800 of them now at this point. I lied. It's 746. This will be the 747th Christmas film that I've seen, so I know what I like, I know what I look for. But to be fair, the Christmas aspects in this, I actually did like. The decorations are beautiful. We have a Santa Claus at one point. The Christmas aspects are actually really pleasant. It's just everything surrounding it to be rather dire. So I don't think it's necessarily, but I don't understand why it's so well loved, other than the nostalgic aspect. So if you have watched it recently for the first time, I'd love to know what you think of it in particular, because I'm sure there are people who watched it now for the first time as an adult and really loved it. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people. I will watch the sequel. Well, by sequel I mean A Christmas Story Christmas, which was released in 2022 and is part of this Parker family franchise. I'm not 100% sure what I'm talking about because I haven't looked too much into them, but I have Now TV. I'm subscribed to Now TV and that's on there, so I will watch it. Should I watch A Christmas Story 2? Is it worth it? I don't know. It was released in 2012, so I imagine we have quite a few differences. Usually there are differences when a film has had that much of a gap between sequels. Maybe I will. I don't know. Let me know if you think it's worth it. But my personal recommendation for A Christmas Story is that it might be fine as something to put on in the background if you just want some festive company, but if you're looking for a well-executed narrative with likeable characters and a narrative style that's not irritating, then A Christmas Story is not one that I'd recommend.